What happens when one of the greatest players in tennis history teams up with one of the fastest rising stars in the game, steps onto a packed center court, and suddenly has an entire stadium believing something special is about to happen? That was the scene in Toronto when Venus Williams and Alexandra Eala reunited for doubles at the National Bank Open. But this story did not end the way many fans expected. Instead of a dream team victory, the night became a reminder of just how unforgiving doubles tennis can be, and why this partnership is still one of the most fascinating combinations on the tour. The excitement had been building long before the first ball was struck. Venus Williams, now 46, is already tennis royalty. 7 Grand Slam singles titles, 14 major doubles championships with her sister Serena, and a career that has stretched across generations. Alexandra Eala, meanwhile, is living through the biggest breakthrough of her young career. At 21 years old, the Filipino star arrived in Toronto fresh off winning her first WTA Tour singles title in Washington and climbing to a career-high world ranking of number 20. Put those two together, and you understand why people were paying attention. Their partnership wasn't completely new. Eala and Williams had already teamed up at the Bad Homburg Open in Germany, where they immediately showed signs that their very different games could work together. In their opening match, they defeated Alexandra Osborne and Catherine Harrison 6-3, 6-4. It was Eala's speed, court coverage, and willingness to move forward combined with Williams' experience, power, and instincts. For a brand new partnership, it clicked surprisingly fast. Their run ended in the quarterfinals against second seeds Olivia Nichols and Teresa Mahalikova, who won 6-3, 6-2. That loss also showed the biggest challenge facing Eala and Williams. In doubles, talent is only part of the equation. The best teams operate almost like they can read each other's minds. Positioning, communication, movement, poaching at the net, every decision happens in a split second. Nichols and Mahalikova had more of that established rhythm. Still, the experience clearly meant something to both players. Eala spoke about how grateful she was for the opportunity to compete alongside Williams and learn from her. Venus responded with an unforgettable compliment, describing the experience as the best ride, the best tournament, the best partner. So naturally, fans wanted more. A reunion appeared possible in Washington, where Eala and Williams practiced together ahead of the Mubadala City DC Open. But Eala ultimately did not compete in that doubles draw. Instead, she focused her attention on singles. And looking back, that decision couldn't have worked out much better. Eala put together the biggest tournament of her professional career. She defeated Olympic gold medalist Zhang Qinwen. She beat defending Washington champion Leylah Fernandez. She took down 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka to reach the final. And then she faced world number 3 Jessica Pegula with history sitting right in front of her. The final stretched across 2 days because of rain. Eala dropped the opening set 4-6, but instead of fading under the pressure, she responded. She took the second set 6-4, and in the deciding set, she completely took over. 6 games, 6 for Eala, 0 for Pegula. With the 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 victory, Alexandra Eala became the first Filipino player to win a WTA Tour-level singles title. That changed the atmosphere around her almost overnight. She wasn't arriving in Toronto simply as a promising young player anymore. She was arriving as a WTA champion. And Toronto noticed. Eala had barely had time to process Washington before she was traveling again, landing in Canada and preparing for the National Bank Open. The transition was brutal. New city, new conditions, new tournament. Almost no time to reset mentally. But she wasn't complaining. She talked about how incredible the previous 24 hours had been and how excited she was to reset for Toronto. Then came another major announcement. Eala and Venus Williams had officially received a wildcard into the doubles draw. This time, the reunion was happening. Eala couldn't hide her excitement. She explained that every opportunity to share a court with Venus was something she cherished because Williams had such a strong mentality and there was so much she could learn from her. That's what made the partnership so compelling. This wasn't simply a publicity pairing between a legend and a rising star. For Eala, it was almost like receiving a masterclass in real time. Williams has experienced virtually everything professional tennis can throw at a player. Grand Slam finals, Olympic pressure, injuries, comebacks, massive crowds, expectations, criticism, and decades of competition at the highest level. For Williams, Eala represented the next generation. Young, fearless, improving quickly, and carrying the hopes of a rapidly growing Filipino tennis audience around the world. Before their doubles match, However, Eala had singles business to handle. She faced Alicia Parks, the American who had defeated her earlier in the year at the Australian Open. This time, Eala flipped the result. She stormed through the opening set 6-1. Parks answered by taking the second 6-4, forcing a decider. But Eala regained control in the third and closed out the match 6-2. The victory pushed her into the third round and extended the momentum from Washington. And the reaction inside SoBi Stadium was huge. Filipino flags were everywhere. Fans greeted Eala with a massive ovation. The energy surrounding her Toronto debut became so intense that the tournament itself was openly talking about Eala-mania. Then, one night later, Eala returned to center court. This time Venus Williams was standing beside her. Across the net were Miyu Kato of Japan and Liudmila Samsonova. And here's where the Dream Team narrative ran into reality. Kato and Samsonova weren't there to participate in somebody else's celebration. They came to win. Kato brought the sharp instincts and touch of an experienced doubles player. Samsonova brought heavy ground strokes and serious power from the baseline. More importantly, they immediately put pressure on the Eala-Williams combination. They broke serve in the opening game. That was exactly the kind of start Eala and Williams wanted to avoid. For a while, both teams settled into their service games. The crowd kept waiting for the momentum shift. Every strong point from Eala or Williams brought the noise right back into center court. Finally, in the eighth game, the breakthrough came. Eala and Williams broke back. Suddenly, the stadium had life again. This was the moment when the dream comeback seemed possible. But doubles can turn in a heartbeat. Instead of riding the momentum, Eala and Williams were immediately broken again. Kato and Samsonova then served out the opening set 6-3. Now the pressure was even greater, and the second set started even worse for the wildcard team. Kato and Samsonova reeled off 4 straight games to take command. At 4-0, the match appeared to be slipping away quickly. Still, Eala and Williams refused to disappear. They continued fighting. They pressured the opposing serve. They found opportunities late in the set and made Kato and Samsonova work to finish the job. But the early deficit proved too large. Kato and Samsonova eventually closed out the match 6-3, 6-4, ending Eala and Williams' Toronto doubles campaign in the first round. So no, the Dream Team didn't send the rest of the doubles draw running for cover. They didn't leave Toronto with a doubles trophy. They didn't even leave center court with a victory. But that doesn't mean the partnership failed. Not even close. Because the real value of this pairing goes beyond one result. Think about what Eala had just experienced. Within a matter of days, she won the biggest singles title of her career, traveled from Washington to Toronto, defeated Alicia Parks in another emotional 3-set battle, and then stepped onto center court beside one of the most accomplished players in tennis history. That's a lot for any player, let alone someone still only 21. And every one of those experiences becomes part of her education. That's something Venus Williams understands better than almost anyone. Williams has been competing at the highest levels of tennis since long before many of today's WTA players were even born. Her value as a partner isn't simply measured by winners or aces. It's also measured in conversations between points, positioning decisions, tactical adjustments, emotional control, and the ability to stay composed when a match starts moving in the wrong direction. Those lessons don't disappear because the scoreboard says 6-3, 6-4. And that's also why Eala's reaction to playing with Venus matters. She hasn't treated the opportunity like some celebrity moment. She has consistently described it as a learning experience. That mindset might be more important than any single doubles win. Toronto also showed something else that continues to follow Eala everywhere she goes. The Filipino support is real. This isn't just online hype. Fans were showing up at SoBi Stadium. Philippine flags filled the stands. Eala's singles debut produced an enormous reception, and even other players were talking about the enthusiasm of the Filipino tennis community. Jessica Pegula, who had just lost to Eala in Washington, said Filipino fans flooded her podcast and social channels with support afterward. That tells you this story is getting bigger than one player. Eala's rise is bringing new people into tennis, and that may ultimately become one of the most important parts of her career. So where does the Eala-Williams partnership go from here? That's the question. Their record together now includes a quarterfinal appearance in Bad Homburg and a first-round loss in Toronto. The flashes of chemistry are obvious, but so are the challenges. Doubles partnerships normally improve through repetition, and Eala and Williams simply haven't played enough matches together to develop the kind of automatic communication possessed by veteran teams. Venus herself has already hinted at that idea. After Bad Homburg, she said she believed that if they had opportunities to play together more often, they could become a very good team. Toronto didn't prove her wrong. If anything, It showed exactly what still needs to improve. And maybe that's what makes this partnership worth watching. This isn't a finished product. It's a tennis legend sharing the court with a 21-year-old champion who is learning how quickly life changes when you start winning at the highest level. Washington gave Eala her first WTA title. Toronto gave her another victory in singles, another incredible reception from Filipino fans, and another chance to learn beside Venus Williams. The doubles result wasn't the fairytale ending people wanted, but sometimes the more interesting story begins when the fairytale doesn't happen. Because now Eala knows what it feels like to stand beside a 14-time Grand Slam doubles champion on center court. She knows what it feels like to have thousands of people roaring for her. She knows what it feels like to win one night and come back the next night knowing another team is waiting to knock her down. And most importantly, she is learning that becoming a champion isn't about winning every match. It's about collecting lessons from every one of them. Venus Williams has spent an entire career proving exactly that. Now Alexandra Eala gets to learn it from one of the best teachers imaginable. The Dream Team didn't conquer Toronto, but their story may be nowhere near finished.